Welcome to Booktopia TV. I'm Andrew Cattanach and I'm lucky enough to be here with one of Australia's finest crime writers and the author of a new book, Life or Death, Michael Robotham. Michael, thanks for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
You're a lovely man. What's drawn you to crime writing and crime novels?
I didn't actually set out to be a crime writer. I was almost an accidental crime writer. I wrote 117 pages of a book which I just thought was going to be, I suppose it was going to be a bit of an adventure story, you know, a wrong man, wrong time, wrong place sort of, you know, Hitchcockian drama.
Yeah.
And but I didn't think that was going to make me a crime writer even. And it was only when the book was published and people kept asking me that sort of question, why crime?
Yeah.
That I suppose I did look back over a long career as a journalist and see that I had a fascination with the dark side of human nature and I guess the sliding doors that will, you know, make one person sort of take the straight and narrow path and the other person finish up behind bars.
Yeah, you're talking about the dark side of nature. One of the defining parts of Life or Death is that those dark sides are often in unlikely places. There's what we are led to believe are career criminals who are actually quite kind-hearted and have motives behind the things they do, and there are people who are meant to protect us when we're asleep at night that actually have quite dark motives. Where do you come up with the ideas for characters initially, sort of, and their different juxtapositions?
I mean, you're absolutely right what you say there about, you know, I think one of the things I learned years ago was just that people aren't just even, you know, it's not about being three-dimensional. We have so many layers of character. You know, we are all capable of doing things which can be despicable or can be outrageously brave, you know, and acts of great kindness. And I think even, you know, as I want to try to do with my characters, is give them that layer of depth where you will see someone that's done terrible things but have a real streak of kindness. And even, you know, even Charles Manson had a mother, and maybe he was kind to cats. You know, so it's there's always, you can always find something. But the idea for Life or Death came about from, you know, about 19 years ago. I read a single paragraph in a newspaper here in Sydney, and it was about a man, a career criminal, a convicted killer turned model prisoner who had escaped from Malabar Training Centre the day before he was due to be released. And I remember thinking to myself, why? I mean, what possible reason would there be?
It's an amazing elevator pitch, because when we first heard about the novel, everyone went, I need to read this.
And it took me about 10 years to come up with a reason. But I can tell you the actual story behind the real story. But the prisoner's name was Tony Lanigan. And 2 years earlier he'd escaped. He went to the Blue Mountains, spent the night under the stars, and the next day he waved down a police car and gave himself up. So when he escaped 2 years later, and this is a convicted killer, but he'd spent most of his adult life in prison. When he escaped 2 years later, nobody bothered putting out a missing persons report because they thought, well, Tony will be back tomorrow. He'll knock on the door. And Tony Lanigan has never been seen since. He vanished without trace. He is probably Australia's least most wanted man. But it is a complete mystery. And I think as a crime writer, you know, I love mysteries. I mean, but that was I suppose the seed was the idea of someone escaping, you know, the day before they were due to be released. And then it took sort of 10 years probably to think of a reason why, and then it took a long while to get the courage up to write something that was, you know, it's different to what I've written before.
Yeah, it is. It feels very personal and quite philosophical, actually, when you look at human nature, and the characters are really beautifully drawn out. But Audie, I feel like I want to be mates with him, but I wouldn't be worthy of it. He's just a good man. What was it like creating? I think,
yeah, he's a good man in difficult times. He's a good man who has terrible things happen to him, you know, and ultimately, so much of life hinges on that random chance, outrageous piece of ill fortune or good luck, you know, that can change your life. It's stepping off the pavement that one moment, you know, at the wrong time, you know, or not looking the right way, or it could be, you know, you could meet the love of your life and you just happened because you dropped something and tie your shoelaces, suddenly when you stand up she's there, and if you hadn't tied your shoelaces she'd have gone. And I sort of wanted to create a story like that, and with Audie I wanted to create a book that had a real sort of Shawshank Redemption vibe to it.
Yeah.
One of my favourite books, one of my favourite films. And I wanted to create a hero who was inherently good, but but had found himself in prison having pleaded guilty to a terrible crime. And I also wanted to write a love story. And at the heart of Life or Death, there is, I think, a really moving love story.
It's an incredible love story, and I think that's some of the parts of the book that I really enjoyed the most. I mean, obviously I'm just a born romantic, but
Yeah.
it's some of it's just beautiful writing about, obviously his love for this girl, something of their star-crossed lovers, and it's a beautiful book in that.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I was partly inspired by the fact that I was doing a Writers' Festival event in Geraldton in Western Australia about a year and a half ago, and I was sharing, on the panel was Tony Jordan, the wonderful Australian writer Tony Jordan, and someone asked the question from the audience, would you often get, as a crime writer, would you ever write something other than crime, or something like that, and I said to people, well actually, I'm thinking of writing a love story. And Tony Jordan snorted through her nose. She thought this was so funny, that I could possibly write a love story. And I thought, right, Tony Jordan, I'll prove to you I can. So it has those, obviously all the thriller elements, the mystery and hopefully some great action scenes. But yeah, I think the moral heart of the story is Audie Palmer, this amazing individual, who survives 10 years of the worst possible treatment in prison, but manages to rise above it.
And the great question, we're not going to answer in this video, but why does he escape? People are just going to have to get the book and find out.
They're going to have to get the book and find out.
Michael, thanks so much for coming to Booktopia. It's been an absolute joy speaking to you, and thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, Andrew.
And Michael's book, Life or Death, is available from booktopia.com.au right now.